Hey, greetings, warfighters. Catholic SWO here. Hey, today's topic is going to be about your department head rides. Now, there's a whole series of videos that I can make that all of you could make, right, about what it goes on during your department head rides, what you need to focus on. But I'm going to focus on three things today, okay? And this is, for folks who are in the seat right now, folks who are in the pipeline, maybe you're even a divo thinking about being a department head. Okay, and what do you do as a department head? Three things that you need to focus on. All right, first one is prioritization. Second one is bringing order to chaos. And the third one is man, train, equip. I hate that phrase. I hate it, but I tell you what, it's critical to your job as a department head. Okay? All right, so let's talk about prioritization. My first CO at ATRC on shore duty would tell every department head class that came in, right? In fact, I think he kicked out the second tours, right, Trainos and FCOs, and he might have even kicked out the LDOs. Just wanted to tell the department heads this, and I now, looking back, I understand why. He said, as a department head, you're going to have 200 things to do every day. And your job as a department head is to figure out which 80 actually need to get done. Okay? So I want you to think about that, right? We all are given an enormous amount of tasks, right? If you go look at your role as a department head, you look in the SORM, training instruction, AT instruction, you look in, Milper's man, you look in all the instructions, right? You're going to find hundreds of line items of responsibilities that you need to do as a department head. Are you going to get them all done? Look, the answer is no, you're not. Your job is to figure out which things are critical, which things are important and need to get done now. Need to get done next week. Need to get done next month. Maybe need to get done next year. Okay? I mean, let's face it, right? You have X number of hours during the day. Your sailors have X number of hours during the day. So part of this prioritization starts coming down to, can you manage, right? Can you manage resources, personnel, time, and equipment, right? The answer is we don't get trained, right? The SWO community, we do not get trained in professional resource management. You can see a good example of this maybe by working with the shipyard, because they'll have these massive charts, right? Some of them are called Gantt charts, and they'll lay out the number of tasks that they need to accomplish, man hours associated, not just man hours, but actual physical bodies, right? Something may take 6 hours, but it does require 2 people, right, or 3 people to pull off. And they're going to lay it out so that, in an availability, they know 3 weeks from now, 4 months from now, that they're going to be doing XYZ job, right? And it's going to be these 3 people. We don't do that. It's that execution often gets put down to the senior enlisted level, your LPO, your work center soup, your chief. But even then, and this is no offense to anybody, I wager they're not thinking that far out, right? They're not thinking that Seaman Timmy is going to have to do this maintenance check in 7 weeks, right, on this piece of equipment. We don't break that down, partly because we're not trained, and the other thing is we just have like those 200 things bear down on us. And most of us don't realize that you don't need to do all 200 things, okay? Certainly not today. Some of them, can be put off for weeks or months, right? Just simply because they're not a high enough priority, okay? So, how many hours in a day? 24. How many do you need to sleep? Right? If you're not being a big, salty, tough SWO, if you're being honest, right, and you're following Navy guidance about fatigue management, you probably need about 6 hours of sleep, right? I think the circadian rhythm handbook shoots for 7, but I think 6 to 7 is a good number, right? You have to factor time in for eating, right? Probably 30 minutes a meal. There's an hour and a half. You got to factor in time for maybe working out, personal health, right? There's another 30, 45, 60 minutes. And then, you've got either family time or just time that you need to recuperate, right? Budgeting in a few hours here and there. You're looking at roughly 8 to 12 man hours of labor that you and your sailors are going to get. Now, certainly you can push that when you need to, right? If maybe you're prepping for a big inspection, you're prepping for a deployment, you can put in certainly more than 8 to 12 hours. But doing that over long periods of time has negative effects, and I've talked about that in other videos. So, and even then, even if you're working 12, 14 hours a day, that still may not be enough time to get the 200 things done. So you have to focus right? You have to map out your day, and you have to work with your chain of command to map out your sailors' days and make sure that they are doing and that you are doing what needs to get done to meet your deadlines, okay? If you do those other 120 things that don't need to be done at all or don't need to be done today, right? Don't need to be done tomorrow, and you miss your deadlines, you are going to get crushed. Nobody gives a crap if you get a whole bunch of work done if it's not what your boss wants you to get done, if it's not what needs to get done right today. And that's very important. I don't want to say I've seen a lot of this because that maybe, would put a damper on some of the people I've worked with. So I don't want to say that. But I have certainly talked to people about their struggles, and I have observed some people struggling. I've seen myself struggle, right? When you focus on something that is not truly a priority. So the act of prioritization involves you understanding what the requirements are and what your resources are, right? How many people do you have to accomplish the task? And remember, as a department head, really another pillar should be delegation, but your primary job is to delegate. You're to identify requirements. You're to associate resources, which are people, equipment, and time. And then you are to delegate and then inspect, right, to make sure that that's being done. As a department head, you're going to have some things that you have to do personally, but you've got to be able to think in terms of what needs to get done, aligned with your command officer's intent and their priorities, of course. Okay, so that's prioritization. There's a lot more to say about that, but I'm going to move on. Bringing order to chaos. Gosh, I've heard this a lot too, and it's totally true. Okay, so you're going to have 3 divisions. Two to 3 divisions, maybe 4 divisions, depending on what kind of platform you're going to. You're going to have, 20, 30, 50, 70, 80 sailors working for you. That is a lot of people who each have their own set of tasks that they need to get done, right? There's equipment that needs to be managed. They need to be fed. They need to be taken care of. They need to have their morale taken care of, right? They need to get liberty. They need to get leave. There's a whole bunch of folks running around on the ship that work for you that are running in separate directions, okay? You and your khaki, right, are bringing that order, bringing order to that chaos, right? Because if you just let your 50 sailors, right, just figure out what they needed to do for the day, I guarantee you they would not get those 80 things that you had identified in the prioritization, section. They would not get those 80 things done because they're going to do what they want to do, right? But they're going to do which may be important, right? But it may not be due tomorrow, maybe not be due today, right? It may be one of those things that is nice to do but is not required to have. Okay, and so what this ultimately comes down to is it's actually a principle of warfare called unity of effort, right? So you have to bring all of your people, all of the resources, the equipment, the time, the sailors, right? Working with your khaki, you have to bring them to singular lines of effort, right? To unify all that energy that they have. Because, I believe that 99% of your sailors are great Americans who just want to do a good job. They want to see the success of themselves, the work centers, the divisions, the ship, the Navy, right? They are good, but they need leadership. They need guidance. They need to be corralled so that they can march together to the same beat to get the same task done, right? Now, again, you're going to have multiple divisions. You may have multiple lines of effort, but you have to unify your sailors along, right, prioritized lines of effort to get the job done. Bringing order to chaos. You're going to find yourself on your department head tours with you're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to have lots of stuff that's going to go on. Your schedule's going to change 6 times in a day, and the commander's intent may change 3 or 4 times in a day, right? Not through any fault of your CO, but again, because the ship's schedule has to change or his boss's schedule change. So you've got to be ready and flexible, right? Part of bringing order to chaos and creating this unity of effort is having backup plans, right? Okay, my one of my COs, my department head rides, was really big into this, and it paid dividends. You need to have a plan A, plan B, and a plan C, right? So if let's just say your priority, right, is in-serve. You're prepping for in-serve, and in-serve is by a certain date. and you're bringing order to chaos. You've got all these things that need to get done for InServ, right? So you create unity of effort, right? You talk with your chiefs, your divos, and you line them up and you say, okay, these are the dates, right? You lay them out. These are the milestones per date. POAM, right? Because it wouldn't be a SWO without POAMs, right? And you are moving along. You need to have in the back of your head, right, at least worked out some back of the napkin math. You need to have what happens if that date slides. Okay, what happens if that date slides to the left, right? That's when you have less time to prepare, right? That's nobody likes that. But what if it slides to the right? We automatically assume, oh, more time, that's great. Yeah, there's more time, but you might have other things that you were going to get done after InServ, for example. And now those things have to be done before InServ. And so now you have to perhaps shift those priorities around a little bit while still maintaining, right, that unity of effort. Okay, order to chaos. Order to chaos. This requires planning, requires thinking, and it requires confidence, right? If you cannot communicate to your sailors what they need to do, the priority and the hierarchy of the tasks that they need to accomplish, and you cannot communicate that confidently and competently, your sailors are going to lose faith in you, and quite frankly, they may just go do their own thing, right? One of the, I'll say, struggles that some of my peers had is that their CACI had different priorities in them, and so there was no unity of effort, and CACI were doing important things, but they weren't doing what they needed to get done in accordance with the department head's guidance, right? So comms. Okay, last topic. I know I'm going long. Man, train, equip. Oh man, I hate this because if you know me, I'm all about warfighting. I want to be a warfighter, right? But man, train, equip. The ship doesn't do any warfighting without the proper man, train, equip being executed by the department head. And believe me, right, you are a department head first. Then your whatever billet you're in. Okay, so Chang, Ops, WEPS, CSO, PTO, whoever, right? You are a department head first, and you need to man your divisions and your department. You need to ensure you know what the manning requirements are. You need to know how to get, right, through EMIRs, through horse trading, through, TMAD requests, right? You need to know what your manning requirements are, and then again know by what date. Prioritization, right? You need to know when you need that NEC. You need to know when you need those sailors for the tasking that you have, right? The training, right? It goes hand in hand with manning, right? The training piece, boy, ships can get themselves in a lot of trouble if they can't pass certification, right? I know that sometimes the Navy will just say, hey, go out and operate, right? And we've gotten away from that a lot in light of the Fitz and the McCain, but if you cannot certify on time, if you can't train, right? And as a department head, you might not specifically be training. You might, right? Depending on your background, right? I have a heavy IMD warfighting background, so I did a lot of training myself, right? To junior enlisted, senior enlisted, and to the rest of the wardroom, right? But at the same time, you have to organize. You have to ensure that training is being done. Remember what I said about delegate? You're delegating the execution of that training, but you are reviewing your training plans. You are making sure that what your sailors are spending their effort, their time, that what they're prioritizing involves training that is going to meet your deadlines and meet your objectives. It is really easy as a department head to get down rabbit holes, right? Again, I'll give you an example. I'm a warfighter, right? I'm an IMD Witty. I would talk about that stuff all day long. I could talk about it all day long. But we've got an AT cert, right? We've got an anti-terrorism force protection cert coming up. You know what we don't need to focus on right this second, is IMD warfare stuff. But I need to ensure that our ATFP is rock solid, right? I need to ensure that my sailors, even if I'm not the WEPs, if my guys are involved, I need to say, hey, Chief, hey, Divo, are they attending the drills? Are they attending the training? Are they any good, right? Do they need focused training? Do we need to prioritize? Do we need to prioritize some of their time? Take them away from certain tasks that maybe have fallen down on the priority level, right? Because you don't just set a priority table and then don't look back at it. That stuff could change daily. You need to say, hey, are we training for what we need to get done? Equipment. Oh my gosh, CAS reps, right? CAS reps, parts, your CSMP, your 3M. All right, if you are not savvy in 3M, going into your department head tours, maybe you're on your department head tours. If you're not savvy at 3M, you are wrong, right? You're wrong and you're going to fail, okay? And your ship's going to fail, right? Again, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, right? But if you cannot follow, right, the three, and I'll tell you the 3M rubric is, I mean, you need to read it, right? Because it's some of it's intuitive, but a lot of it is it's not rocket science, but gosh, it's tedious and complicated, and so it's going to require mental effort from you to ensure you know, right, what needs to be accomplished in your divisions and your department wide. If your 3M isn't done right, if you don't know that it's being done right, if you don't know how to verify, your gear, I'm telling you, is not going to work when you need it, right? And, you know, all the WEPSs out there, I can tell you, right, that when the gun doesn't shoot, right, the first thing we think about, who's doing the maintenance, right? OPSs, when the davit breaks, when the davit doesn't work, right? We cannot get the SLAD, right, to drop ribs in the water. Who's doing the maintenance, right? And then Chang is an obvious one, right? Chang when anything breaks, right? So your role as department head, right? Man, train, equip. That equipment, that is 3M right there. That is you looking at doing your spot checks, holding a standard, failing your sailors, failing your maintenance men on their spot checks when they deserve to be failed, and holding them accountable. Doesn't mean you have to send them to mass, doesn't mean you have to yell at them, but you need to let them know that they have not hit standards and that they need to improve themselves. And certainly, as a department head, you get your divos, your chiefs, your LPOs, your work center soups, you get them involved and you get them to fix the problem. Okay, so man, train, equip. It is critical. Critical as a department head, whether you're ops, Chang, SWEP, whoever, right, that you are doing those things. It is very tempting to get sucked down the rabbit hole of your billet, right? Hey, I'm ops. I just do schedules. Or, hey, I'm Chang. I just got my head in, you know, the plant EOS. Or, hey, I'm WEPS, and I'm just going to go count bullets, right? No, that's important too, right? And maybe, again, another video. But you've got some core responsibilities as a department head in the man, train, equip pillars that have to be done. If you're not doing those, you're doing your department a disservice, you're doing your captain and your ship a disservice by not ensuring that those critical pillars are upheld. Okay, long video. All right, prioritization, unity of effort, bringing order to chaos, man, train, equip. Okay, those are three important pillars, three important aspects of your job as a department head. Thanks for your time, and if you got any questions, please let me know, or if you've got other ideas, right, that you want to share, please, of course, share. Thanks. God bless.